Hello again, this is Jasmina, and in this video I'm going to talk about the 8 mansions, which is basically helps you determine what your good and bad directions are. There are many 8 mansions web pages out there, and even if you search for personal 8 mansions, you often end up at websites that are actually house 8 mansions. So you have to be careful. So I'm going to show you a table that gives you your true personal 8 mansions, and so you don't have to be confused. The way I use 8 mansions is just by looking at directions. I do not look at locations like sectors of the house. Some do this, but in my experience, this isn't the right way to use it. If you want to use house sectors, you should be using the house 8 mansions. That makes more sense. And I'll tell you specifically why I believe this. In the apartment that I lived in, that I had the best career growth, my income rose by more than 50%. This was a place that my main door, really my only door, that led to the outside. It was in a sector of the apartment that was in my very worst possible location it could possibly be if you're looking at house or apartment sectors in terms of the personal 8 mansions. However, the door direction was in a very good direction for me. So it doesn't really seem to matter when it comes to personal 8 mansions what sector of the house you're talking about. It's the direction of things that are important. As I said, there are house 8 mansions, and actually if you do want to define locations in your house that are good, this might be the better way to do it. Most practitioners don't use this because basically it's not very strong. It doesn't have a big effect on people's life. Your flying star chart, your purple white chart, your chi man chart, these are all tend to be stronger, or at least have a bigger effect. In order to be able to find your best directions, you need to find your Kwa number. Sometimes it's called Gua. It's the same word. Sometimes it's just pronounced slightly differently. But you want to use the Chinese solar calculator. Most of the Kwa number calculators out there actually use the Chinese lunar calculator. And that's a problem if you were born in January or February. However, if you were born after March 1st all the way to December 31st, you can use any Kwa number calculator because it will give you the right number. The best free calculator for people who are born January or February that I have found is the Circle of Life Kwa number calculator. You do not even need to put in your email address. You just put in your data and click the solution or whatever it's called, and it will tell you what your Kwa number is. No cost and no signing up for anything. You won't get any email from them. So it's very good. This is why I like them. And I know they use the Chinese lunar or solar calculator for sure. However, if you were born February 3rd, 4th, or 5th, you actually need your time of birth and a better calculator. I do have access, it's a paid access to a better calculator, but if you were born between 1924 and 2017, there is a chart at this website. And if you ask me if you're interested in an analysis, I will send you basically this chart that can help you if you're born in this period of time. Now, less than 1% of the people born are actually in this window. But weirdly enough, I have 2 very close relatives that are born in this window. So this is why I know this is important. Gender is required. And I know this is a bit of a tender point in today's society. My recommendation is you use your preferred gender because the universe is directing you to a certain gender. And I think that's the right way to do it. If you have no preferred gender, I will treat you like I treat a couple. And I will actually show you an example of this so you can understand how I'm going to do that. If you have a person born on a given day, some years that person, whether they're male or female, will actually have the same qua number. There's only one that's like that. There are others that whether you're born male or female, you may have a different number, but you'll be in the same general group. And then there are other people born the same day, male or female, will be in a different group, of course, with a different qua number. And this will become clearer as we go on. So this is the promised chart. So what you want to do is find your qua number listed here, and then you read across. Success basically means career and wealth. The LNR stands for love and relationships, and this is relationships beyond your family. This includes your bosses, your colleagues, just people in general. Health is pretty clear. When it comes to growth, we're talking about personal growth, like gaining self-confidence or using this direction to help you learn something new. These two are, I call them neutral. In olden days, they would give these negative, but these are actually quite useful, and I'll talk more about them. But you can consider these not bad, but not great to use all the time. These last two are more serious. This one you really don't want to mess with. You don't want to do anything important facing one of these directions. There are things you can do while you face these directions with no consequences, but you have to be careful about that. This OPP means opportunity. So if you're facing these directions, you can actually lose out on opportunities. If you are young and early in your career, you really want to avoid these directions because that's not good. If you're retired, it's maybe not so bad, but still you got to be careful with this because you don't want to lose out on the opportunity of maybe finding the right doctor. You know, that's what's more important when you're retired. Now you notice this has a color code. So the purplish color is the East group people and the yellow is the West group. And if you take a quick look at this, you will see that everybody that is a East group person has the same 4 positive directions. They also have the same 4 negative directions. They are just ordered differently. They're not in the same order for everybody. Same thing is true for the West group. They all have the same 4 good directions and same 4 bad directions. Also, if it's good for an East group person, it'll be bad for a West group person and vice versa. So this is just something to note. So this means if you have a couple, one is in the East group and one is in the West group, somebody is going to have a less than ideal direction for at least something. And I try to stick to these 2 directions because these are the useful but not, let's say, not negative. They're useful and they're not positive. So maybe neutral is the best word. So what we have here is a East-West combo. That is, one person is an East group person, the other one's a West group person. I chose these 2 because they're actually among one of the harder ones. And the reason why they're harder is because if we look here at their success direction, which is in general my preference, I'd like to give at least one person the house or the main door facing their success direction. But if we look here, we have southeast. Where does it lie here? And this other person has the southeast in one of their worst directions. So that's out. We look here, northwest. Well, there's northwest. So we can't give one of these people a success direction. So then we have to decide what else to do. So this is one option, and there's another, and I'll talk about it near the end. But we can just start by looking at these. We have north and south. Here that's north and south. Well, let's just give person A the south direction, so they get love and relationships, and B gets spiritual. When we look here so person B has to get a better one for the main door facing direction. And so that means that we're going to look at these two directions. So we have west and northeast. And I'm going to choose west, and there's a reason for it that has to do with the structure of the house. And that will come along later, why I chose this. And since we can pick and choose, this could be either one since neither gets the success direction. But we can just choose, well, let's give person B love and relationships, and then person A gets the spiritual. So that's not too bad. When you look at this whole thing here, this will be a couple that really love each other, unlikely to get divorced. Of course, this assumes they have decent exterior landforms so that they're not getting a bunch of shachi into their house. And the relationships is much broader than the relationship with each other. This is a relationship with everybody, their colleagues, their bosses, everybody. So this is very good. This gives them a much better chance of success if they have good relationships with others. So this is like second best. Now, when it comes to desks, I'm assuming that at least at some time they may work from home. And so since neither one got the success direction, I would say this is probably the right direction. B gets northwest, A gets southeast, and this should be the direction their desks are pointing. Now, if they're learning something for their work, then they can choose this direction because this helps you learn better and faster. Now, this is what the house could look like. We have a south-facing house with a west-facing door, and this is a pretty standard setup. And if you have either a wall here for the garage or even just a railing here, then what will happen is chi will collect here, because the reason why we're saying this is a south-facing house is we're assuming there's a road up here somewhere and the chi comes in this direction. So when the chi comes in here, it tends to kind of collect in here. If you've got a bit of a wall here or something here, even a tree here, well, that's probably not so good. A railing would be a little better, or a wall. And this would allow the chi to collect in here. And every time you open up this door, it's very good. You get a lot of good chi. Of course, assuming you have good chi coming in from the road. Now, if we had decided to flip this, which we could have, that would mean our door would have to face this direction down here. And that would mean you would have to do something rather strange. I mean, that you would have to cut into the house and then have the door come out this way, swing so that this is the direction. And that's really difficult. First off, you wouldn't see it as you're coming up to the house. It would be blocked from the view. So somebody coming up to your house doesn't really know where to go. And also, if you don't have the right structure here, it's very hard to get the chi to turn around and come into your house. So this is why I chose this southwest combination. And it had to do purely with this, making the house look normal and being able to collect chi. There is an alternative. We could have a north-facing house with a northeast-facing door. So this would be, the house would be here, and the door would be on a 90-degree or 45-degree angle over here. And you would be looking out in this direction. And that would give the spiritual to person A, along with growth, and that would give person B small problems and love and relationships. And that's possible. So there are more than one possibility that could still be good houses. It's just a matter of basically what is on the outside. Which house has the better external landforms? That would be how I would decide between two different houses that could work. When it comes to good directions, in terms of your house facing direction and your main door facing direction, success is generally the best direction, especially if you're young or starting out in a new career. But if you are a lot older or retired or have significant health problems, maybe the health sector, or the health direction, I should say, is the better direction for your house or main door to face. And if you can get both, that's even better. I promised to talk about the range location, and it is actually the location within the house as measured from the center of the house that's important. It's more important than the facing direction. Any good facing direction is fine, but if you have a house where you have an East group, West group mix, which is most places, somebody is not going to have the best direction. But that's okay. It's really the location that's more important. And you can watch my separate video about this to learn more about it. When it comes to home office, it's all about desk facing, and the growth and success are probably the best, but any good one can be used. Your bedroom, when we talk about the headboard facing, we're talking about where your head is pointed. So if you stand at the foot of your bed looking towards your headboard, that determines the direction. That determines the headboard facing direction. Love and relationship is the best, but any good one is good. When it comes to bad directions, for these 4 types of things, the house facing, the main door facing, the bed direction, and the desk direction, you really want to avoid the 2 worst directions. That's pretty significant, but it's better to avoid all 4 non-good directions. Now, if you've got a couple where one's an East group person, one's a West group person, this is unavoidable. And this is why I use the 2 basically neutral ones, the ones that were in black. Good external landforms do reduce the effects of bad directions and enhance the good directions. And this is why good Feng Shui practitioners care so much about external landforms, because they can make or break a property. There are some useful bad directions, or bads in quotes, because they're not really bad. The ho-hai means small issues, small problems. But this is a good direction to face if you're trying to get out of a rut. It will cause small problems to arise, but as you solve these small problems, you find a way to get out of the rut. Sometimes it takes a couple small problems for this to happen, but this allows you to see things in a different light, which is how you get out of the rut. So this is not a bad direction to use, but you really only have to use it if you're in a rut. The spiritual direction is actually a very good direction for meditation, or a good direction to face when you're having some me time. It promotes good emotional well-being, feeling good about yourself, being more relaxed, being able to handle stress better. So this is a very, very useful direction. I think it actually should be called a good direction. Not something that you use all the time, but it's a very good direction. The loss of opportunity, of course, sounds terrible, and I do think it is, but there is some indication that you might be able to use this. But you do have to use great caution, and you only use it for short periods of time. This can give you a lot of attention. But if you mess up at all, you not only lose out on whatever gains you got from that attention, you tend to lose out other things too. So you want to use this for a very short period of time. You can hype up your attention, and then you stop doing this, and then you just hold on to that small gain. And you can do this on a somewhat regular basis, but you don't want to do this long term. Now, the last one is really, truly a bad direction, but there are things you can do facing this direction. You can watch TV or play video games. You can goof around and face this direction, and it's fine. You're not doing anything serious or anything that's going to make life-changing decisions on. So this is why this is okay. But you don't want to use it for anything that's going to make a difference in your life. I have lived in 18 different houses or apartments in my lifetime. Functionally, it's actually 19 because one house, which we are currently living in, we bought and occupied it in period 7, and it was new at the time. And so it was truly a period 7 house. But in period 8, we moved overseas for a year and a half and did not rent out the house, didn't want to. And so when we came back, it turned into a period 8 house, and we actually felt the difference. But in reality, we only lived in, or at least I only lived in, 18 different places. Most of these times I knew nothing about Feng Shui, but I have a really good memory, and I can actually draw a floor plan of places that don't even exist anymore. But I remember where the rooms are. It's not good enough to actually do a full Feng Shui analysis on because it's not to scale, but I can tell you where all the rooms were, even the places I lived in as a young child. And I have observed a pattern when it comes to the house or apartment facing direction and the main door facing direction. And what I observed is you have to note the house facing direction. And if we're talking about an apartment, the unit facing direction is either the direction you're facing when you step out from your apartment onto your balcony, if you have one. And if you don't, it's the direction you're facing when you're looking directly out of the biggest window in your apartment. And then the other thing is the main door direction. That is, when you step out, what direction are you going? When I look back at the 18 different places that I've lived, I do see a pattern. And as long as there is one of these is in a good direction for you, either your house or unit facing or your main door facing, as long as one of those is positive, then it's maybe not the best house for you, but you can actually see your way to the future. You can see a future. You're not stuck and you're not worrying whether or not you're even going to make it. You actually can see a way forward. The first 3 places that I lived were with my parents, and then the next 15 were largely chosen by myself. And in the first 3 houses, they were houses that were in good direction for everybody in the family except me. And my childhood was quite a bit of a challenge. I had lots of trouble with my health. I was speech delayed and then had to take speech lessons. And there were still words that I find very, very difficult to pronounce. My tongue just doesn't want to seem to do what it needs to do. But I have to give total credit to the man who was my speech therapist. He probably allowed me to do this today, because if I would have been the way I was when I was young, I probably could never do this. However, as an adult, I consistently chose places that met at least one of these things being good. Now, I only knew about even just the 8 mansions in the last 2 places, that's 17 and 18. I knew that flying stars existed, but for house 17, which is also functionally 19, I did not know how to create the flying star chart. And for the apartment 18, I didn't have time to look at it all. So I just chose a place that felt good. And we didn't think we'd be there a really long time, so it didn't really matter. But what this means is I have chosen 12 consecutive good places with no knowledge of Feng Shui. And I must feel something because I can't, I mean, the chances of me doing this by random choice is ridiculously small. So I must feel something. Now I can do that for myself, but for you, I have to do a full analysis. I can't just guess on this one. So that's basically it. I'd like to thank you for watching. Please feel free to contact me if you have any questions. And you can visit my ad-free website for more information about what I do and some other information. Thank you again for watching.